Welcome to Alabama Manufacturing Now, hosted by Alabama Technology Network, a podcast where we cover a wide array of challenges, solutions, and innovations for manufacturers. We're your host, Whitney Barlow, Supplier Development Manager. And I'm Paige Caulfield, Marketing and PR Manager.
Welcome back to Alabama Manufacturing Now. I'm your co-host, Whitney Barlow, the Supplier Development Manager for Alabama Technology Network. And joining me today is Joey Massey with Alabama Technology Network. He is the Director of our Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program here at Alabama. And our guest today is with the Alabama Community College Innovation Center, Julie Frizzell. Julie, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you both for having me today. It's a little different sitting on this side of the microphone or the camera, I guess you can say, working through our Innovation Unplugged podcast that we've done over the last couple of years. Thanks for having me. I'm
We are
excited
so
to be
excited.
here.
We are.
Yes. Well, I'm Julie Frizzell, Chief of Operations for the Alabama Community College Systems Innovation Center. I have been in this role or in the leadership role for the Innovation Center for almost 4 years now. Really excited to come into this industry of education and training coming out of the manufacturing automotive industry for about 21 years. So it's a totally different career change for me, but I have loved every minute of it, being able to help our companies across Alabama and students get connected to skills training and helping them get into the workforce quickly. So it's been a fun almost 4 years, and looking forward to the many new and exciting things that we have to come through the Innovation Center.
Oh, I bet that was quite a cultural change from automotive to education and into a whole different ecosystem of what it was. So kind of explain to us how the Innovation Center partners and how it kind of dovetails into all parts of the education system, especially with the community college and with ATN.
Absolutely. So part of the Innovation Center's mission is to really help individuals get connected to skills training and get them quickly into the job force, to the workforce. So we develop short-term training programs for pretty much every industry across the state. We started out with the construction and transportation industry and some hospitality trainings, but our goal is to really sit with industry, kind of listen to where their workforce gaps are. Try to see if there's any other training programs that exist, because we don't want to duplicate efforts. We want to make sure that training that's developed through the Innovation Center is there to fill a gap, to make sure that there's opportunity to get those skills needed to really make a difference for our industry. So we really bring together industry at the table and say, what do you need? Tell us those skills that once an employee or once you hire someone, what do you expect them to be able to know or do in the first 30 to 60 days? So that's really what Skills for Success is meant to do, is to help rapidly train individuals, but not just training for knowledge, training for assessment of know-how, right? We want to make sure that they get exposure to those things that are going to be required of them once they enter those positions and those jobs. And so that's why it's really important that we developed a hybrid program. So we have a theory portion that's online. So it takes the individuals, it depends on the course, anytime between 10 to 30 hours, depending on how technical the course is online. And then they're required to do a hands-on skills training lab. Those can happen anywhere across the state at any of our 24 community colleges. And that's what makes this program so special. It is actually putting that training program into the communities and connecting them with the employers right there in their local communities, that the colleges can help make a difference. And they want to make sure that, if there's a need, that they can pull one of our trainings off the shelf and say, hey, we've got a solution for you. Here's something that we can try. And that's been really successful. We've been excited to see the impact that it's had across the state. And we're excited to see the success stories that come along with that.
We understand success stories. So when you say training needs for the companies, at ATN, we do surveys, we get data back, and we hear from the manufacturing base what difficulties they're experiencing at the time. What we don't typically tend to get is what are their specific training needs. For example, they may say job recruitment is our number one issue right now, but we don't get the specifics of what trainings do you need these individuals to have that will help you with job recruitment. So what do you hear most from businesses, manufacturers about their training needs in areas? Do you get that information?
We do, and a lot of that really comes from our state associate or this associations, industry associations across our state. We try to really be connected to those uh, associations to kind of be there and listen to what their membership is saying. It's really important. If they find gaps, they know who to come to the community college
Sure.
system, to ATN, to the Innovation Center. So we want to make sure that it's known what we can do and how we can develop programs, and knowing that we can customize something. I think that's what's really set us apart is we're not just pulling third party material off the shelf. We're not going out and pulling textbooks. We're actually customizing those training needs based on that information that they're sharing with us. So mostly what we do is entry level training, but training that's in high demand.
Okay.
We want to make sure that what we're developing through the Innovation Center, Skills for Success programs, are going to have a statewide impact. And so we look at those requests, we do some analysis and kind of vet through what that looks like. And one of those things is we look to see, are there any other training programs out there that really fit this need? And if so, we want to connect them with that training program. If it's something that we're like, yeah, this just doesn't exist, and they're like, hey, we've been asking or we've been needing,
Yeah.
then we really sit down and talk through that. You kind of ask, how do we know what those skills are? That's the first thing we start with. What do you need them to be able to do within that first 30 to 60 days? A lot of them talk about safety. I need them to know about working in a
Absolutely.
safe environment. I need them to understand safety on equipment. I need them to understand exposure to chemicals and lockout, tagout, or whatever it's related to for that industry. They are not always industrial maintenance employees, right? They're
Mm.
individuals that may not have had any exposure in that industry. And even through construction or transportation, or right now in our fiber industry, like we're trying to recruit new individuals into these industry roles that have not been exposed in that environment before. So that's one of the key things that we hear is we just need some really good introductory to safety, safe operating procedures on equipment, and then being able to handle equipment, maneuver equipment, use tools, be able to do measurements. Measurements has been a big thing
We
throughout
say
every
yes,
industry.
yes.
Yes, whether it's hospitality or construction, measurements, being able to read measurements and do conversions and things like that. That quick math that we all taught,
Yeah.
years and years ago. Math has changed over the years in
Yes.
education, but being able to do that quick math and knowledge math to be able to apply that in their workplace setting. And really, it just comes back to what is the biggest gaps in those roles that you're trying to recruit for. We've been really trying to make sure that there's always something that can lead to a job. So, Skills for Success, when we develop a curriculum, we want to make sure at the end of that lab that employers can be there. They can talk about those job roles, and that those things that those students learned in that course and were able to demonstrate in that lab, they're really going to benefit that employer who's like, hey, this is the type of individual I need. So we invite industry to come to our hands-on training labs. It's so important for them to, number one, be connected in their community with their colleges, but number two, be connected with the students.
Right.
So that's been really beneficial is not only are they there with us in the beginning to help develop the curriculum, but industry representatives and employers from the communities are there while we're doing lab days, or they're there a couple days after to say, hey, here's our jobs, here's what we have. And it's not just about what those jobs are, but it's where they can go in that industry, that career pathway as well.
And that makes perfect sense to me. In my earlier days here, I worked with a lot of safety guys. That's what they did in the office I was in. And
What you did.
everybody says, well, I did data and perception surveys and
But
safety.
what did you also do? Forklift?
Oh, I drove a forklift before I came to ATN, I was a forklift operator. At any rate, people think, well, safety is safety and there's a safe way to do this or that, but it matters what you're going to use, what tool you're going to use, what machine you're going to use. And some of the approaches to do that the safest way, you need more specific information. Same with the measurement you were talking about. Um, Everyone says, well, I know how to measure this. Well, yes, you do, but in a manufacturing environment, for example, it matters what's that. There's only a range of tolerance this can be, and the machine or the tool you use to measure it with is not just a measuring tape all the time. And you specifically need to know how to measure the device. The measurement is not the problem. You need to know how to do it specifically. So that all makes perfect sense to me.
That's pretty, so do you see, so tell me, I have to know, what is your favorite or one of your favorite classes that y'all have built so far? That you're like, this one, I could go take this one. Like, this is something I want
I
to do.
would definitely say fiber optics. I think that's just something that so many individuals just don't really understand the world of fiber and what that means and how fiber works. And, technology is in everybody's hands all day long, right? It doesn't get there, and that information doesn't get there without the fiber technology and the things that infrastructure that's been put in place to have broadband, especially in rural parts of our state.
Yeah.
And so that has just been something that I'm like, this is going to be a need for a long time. And the more people that are in that industry, they're going to help expand that industry. I see so much growth and job opportunities for even young people to get into the fiber industry right now. That's probably one of my most exciting courses. It is very technical. Our curriculum team and our instructional design team did a fabulous job trying to make sure that through an online course that there is true application in that learning as well, not just once they get in the lab setting. But they took some of the things that were required in the lab and put it inside of the theory course as well as interactives. So there's all kinds of colors and coding of fiber. And you not only have to know it, but you have to know what to choose and when to choose and why to choose that fiber. And when you're splicing fiber and all the things that you do in that environment, it's a lot of, I guess you could say, like applying those quick things that you've learned. Like, okay, there's, we all learn how to spell Mississippi, MISSISSIPP. Like there's something that you learn to get you there. Like there's that word, that trick to it. There's a trick to fiber, and there's tricks in all of those applications as well. And so inside of the curriculum, there's interactives, there's games that help people learn that structure, right? That help people learn the terminology and things that are going to be so important once they get to that lab and have to put those fiber connections together, or they have to splice that fiber. Like they're already learning how to do that in the theory. So when it comes to lab, they're like, okay, yeah, let me think how I did this through in my course. Are there instructors there to guide them and kind of walk them through that? So to me, that's an exciting course. I've seen the lab several times. And I just think it's something that for long term, there's going to be a lot of
I would
growth
love to
and
review that.
opportunity.
I would love to have a review link of that
So-
course.
When you're talking about the theory part and they're doing, so you talked about your curriculum team. Who exactly for each one of these classes, who is that curriculum team? Explain a little bit more on how that's built.
Okay, so through the Innovation Center, we really have 3 different departments. We have our curriculum team, we have workforce, and we have marketing. And then we have just an administrative, myself and our office manager that kind of handle the day-to-day things. But our curriculum team is made up of an internal resources and also external teams as well. So we have a curriculum manager, Brandy, or director of curriculum, Brandy. Rachel's our curriculum manager. And then we have Amber, Sharon, and John Mully, who are our project coordinators. And so as requests come in from industry, we kind of divide and conquer out through the curriculum team who's going to lead what project. So one of our project coordinators will be in charge of that. We work with our marketing team and workforce team to make sure we identify task force members and subject matter experts so that they have the know-how and the individuals so that they have a starting kind of project group, right? Like it starts as a project. It starts as a team of individuals who come together, talk through those things with those industry representatives to say, how does this course need to be built? What does it need to entail? A lot of that preliminary work is done up front with our internal curriculum team through the Innovation Center. But as things start getting laid out, okay, here's the skills they need to know, because those skills are developed from what they need to be able to do in that lab. And then we really start back. We start with the end in mind. So if the lab is the last thing the student does before they go get the job, let's start with those things they need to know how to do. They need to be able to master these skills in this lab day setting or multiple days of lab setting. So that's what our curriculum team starts with. And they're like, okay, they sit down with industry and say, what are those skills? I mean, a lot of times we get job descriptions and things like that. So we've got a little bit of an understanding up front what they need. But we want to walk through that with them and like really say, okay, where should the emphasis be? What needs to have more more in this course than like how do we make sure that the application side of it has enough application to help them be successful in that lab. So internally, we work in our curriculum team through a formatted process of developing that with the task force. Once that skills and the outline are developed, then we pull in a content writing team. And so we use some external vendors outside of the internal Innovation Center curriculum team that works with our project coordinators. They work through the content writing side of it because everything we do is customized. But all that content is written based on those skills and outline of objectives that are developed with the task force. And then there's several steps of review with the task force through that development process of content. Once that content is checked off and reviewed by our task force and subject matter experts, then we go into designing the course, and we use a third-party vendor to help us design.
Okay.
We have internal staff that is also instructional designers as well, so we kind of pivot off of where we have resources to jump in on certain projects. And I always tell Brandy it's kind of like the moving the shelves around. As you're developing something in a project, you kind of have to know where everything is at the time and where capacity has open capacity to move things here. So we kind of do that with curriculum as courses move along the process. But the instructional design teams are fabulous. I mean, the creativity that we see from them, being able to build those interactives like I was talking about
Sure.
in the fiber course, that's something you really don't see in typical online training, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's a PowerPoint, sometimes it's a instructor just sitting behind a camera and
Or a
talking,
video.
or a video, or sometimes it's just words on a screen and you're just scrolling through it. Our curriculum doesn't look anything like that. And I think that's what we're really proud of because it's a different way of learning, right? In this TikTok world, we know that individuals love to scroll and you have to catch their attention. 10, 20, 30 seconds is about all you're going to get. So inside of our courses, we try to, use that same philosophy to say, let me teach you a little bit of something. Let's read a little bit of something. Okay, let's learn through a video. How does this apply in the real world? Or let's walk around this piece of equipment. Let's identify parts of this equipment. So there's a lot of clicking and moving. It's very interactive inside the course. But it's also the quick how to. Like the TikTok is, if you want to learn how to do something in YouTube, you just open it and you scroll to the last 9 minutes of a 10-minute video, right? Like you just want to know that exact thing you need to know. Same thing. You won't find videos in our courses that are 5-10 minutes long. It's
I was going to say that.
30 seconds, a minute,
Yeah.
a minute and a half. Let me show you how to identify these different wires in the fiber. But okay, now let's get back to something else. And so it's that quick movement. It's interactive and it keeps the student engaged. And I think that's what really sets it apart. You really don't see that in other online or other online courses that are out there that really prepare that individual to be able to apply those skills in that lab day.
I concur with every bit of that. The pieces of the courses I've seen from you guys, and look, I know that must be a yeoman's job to develop something like that, and I'm glad you guys do it. You do it much better than I do, but it really does move along. In some of the training I've been used to, there may be a 15-minute video that you have to sit through, then some slides, then a quiz, and that's not good.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
What I'm curious about is, you were talking about the interactives and the design team. I obviously have no idea what goes into that technically. I know it can't be easy, but in some of the work, we work for the same folks. We try to collaborate on occasion. In some of the work I've seen with the interactivity, is that baked into the software you guys use? How is that designed? Does someone have to custom design that? You know, will you talk a little about that? Because I don't know the answer.
I will try.
And don't give away
Not
the secrets.
expert, obviously. We have a fabulous team that does this daily. And of course, we have some external resources that assist with that. So everything that we build and design for our online course eventually lives in our LMS system and our learning management system. That learning management system right now is Canvas. Canvas has a lot of great qualities to it. It's why the community college system chose that, our LMS system. And they're still rolling out new features and tools to be able to enhance a student's learning and to enhance the capabilities for instructors and faculty. And for the non-credit side, like there's not just a faculty member that's overseeing this course. It's a workforce team. It's our workforce teams at our colleges. They're not typical teachers or faculty members.
Right.
And so the way we build our courses is there are not only interactives, but there's quizzes inside of those as well. So there's quick assessments at the end of each module so that the students can go back and really apply, okay, how do I apply this? Let me make sure I can get through these assessments, because they have to score pretty much like a 80% or better to move on and have that next module open up for them. If they don't get it the first time, it's okay. They can go back and review the material again and do the assessment. All of that is uniquely customized and developed for our curriculum, because we wanted to make sure, first of all, it was unique to fit the industry needs, right? And
Right.
industry said, I need them to know and I need them to do.
Sure.
And so all of those aspects of designing that curriculum is done kind of outside of the LMS system, through software that helps you build out customized curriculum, and with the videos, with interactives that they build. And right now we use a system called Articulate Rise. And so all of that is done inside of Articulate Rise, and then it's loaded into Canvas once the course is complete. So we have an instructional designer team that that's what they do day to day.
Yeah.
So they'll take the content that was developed based off of those skills and lab activities that the student needs to do, and then they will take all of that and build that inside of the interactive environment inside of Articulate. So once all of that's done, then it's moved over into our LMS system.
I
Which
didn't
is
realize that was the way that worked. That makes sense to me.
It's a lot of moving pieces
I'm
and a lot of
sure.
moving
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
What we like to say, and this is something that really I think industry has been excited about. Our goal is to, once industry comes with a need and we identify the task force is 5 to 10 individuals within that industry across the state.
Right.
And then we identify a subject matter expert. That's the one person that has a little bit more interaction with our team on a more frequent basis than the task force does. But at the end, they've all had multiple feedback and review sessions as we've built this course along the way. The last thing we want to do is listen to them in the front and then at the end say, oh, here it is, and then not get any feedback. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
it's very intentional in the way that our process has been built. It wasn't perfect in the beginning. Of course, we've had to tweak it and, change it
And we'll
along the way. And we'll
continue,
continue to. That's what I always say. If we are not continually improving our processes, we're not doing our jobs.
Right.
We always want to go back and say, how is this affecting the end user? And the end user is not always the student. It's the workforce teams at our colleges.
Sure.
It's those external
Right.
employers who are like, hey, I've got 7 people going through this course and I need to make sure they get it. Like we've got to be able to build things that's not just for the end user of a student, but it will serve that need for industry. So all of that is customized in a way to meet those needs.
So they take their course, they do the lab.
Mm.
Is this done at every college at the same time, or we do pilot programs? How does that work?
Okay, so the way that we deploy our courses is once we build out a course and we want to test it out, we do a pilot course. And so we work with one of our colleges. We try to pull in an industry partner, an employer in that community, say, let's pilot this program. Let's get in a handful of students to put through it. Sometimes we like to say we need some students with really no knowledge of this industry. That's who it's for. But we also want a couple of students that may already be in some of those roles with some of the employers that we're connected to say, what did we miss? What did we get wrong?
Yeah, it's almost like content reviewers and structure reviewers.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the pilot
Perfect.
program, that's exactly what we want to do. We pilot each course twice before we deploy it out statewide to the rest of our community colleges. And so everything that we build through Skills for Success is available at all 24 community colleges. So they really have the option and the flexibility to say, hey, we're going to offer this because we have a need. An employer has come to them in their community and said, hey, we've got a need for heavy equipment operators. So they can say, great, we've got the Skills for Success heavy equipment courses. Which one do you need? Do you need one? Do you need two? So between skid steer and bulldozer and excavator and roller, and those are the ones that are available right now, but we've got paver and backhoe and working on some asphalt for the Road Building Association, doing some screed and shuttle buggy and courses like that go into our road construction. So there's a whole plethora of opportunities they can choose from. And I think the beauty of it is it's not just skid steer is offered every 6 weeks at this college. Like, it's when there's a need.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. And can you go? So if a larger asphalt company or a company that maybe is trying to get more transportation or transit bus drivers, can you go to that company too and help implement that there specifically and not at a community college, or is it only at a community college?
We always partner with our colleges.
Okay.
So we develop the curriculum and then we hand the curriculum off to our colleges to be able to train in their communities. And that goal is that they are using, employers in that community that say, hey, I may have an incumbent worker that I need to upskill.
Right.
They still have that opportunity, not just to do an open enrollment course, but to work with industry to say, is there some individuals that you need to upskill in some of your operations? And so
Speaking of upskilling, what about stackable credits? So this is something that we all know the governor has been a very big fan of in her past two administrations. I would think this would just work perfectly with that.
it does, and I really think that's where the roots of the Innovation Center came from, was really that foresight of, Governor Ivey's Success Plus initiative. How do we get more people into our workforce? Not just looking at unemployment numbers anymore, but labor force participation rate has been the big topic, right, for the last 5 years. And it should be. We want to make sure those individuals who could go to work have the skills that they need to be successful,
Right.
and to be able to continue on in those career pathways. And it's whether they go to a job immediately after gaining those skills or whether they come back to one of our colleges and go to the next program, having that opportunity to stack those credentials. That's really what our goal is, to bring individuals in, credential them, get them into a job or get them on that pathway to further training opportunities with our colleges. And so that stackable side of it is really important. We're excited to start implementing soon inside of Canvas. They have a program called Canvas Credentials. And so as we issue credentials in our courses in Canvas, as they complete the lab, students will be issued their credential inside of their learning management system. What does that do for them? Well, number one, it can actually say, here's my credential. This is what I learned. These are the core things that I learned in this course. That credential can have a digital badge, digital credential that they could send to a potential employer.
Like a transcript.
Like a transcript. They can also, we are going to be developing pathways inside of Canvas to show a student, what's my on-ramp and off-ramp? Where do I begin? Where do I get, what training do I need? What courses do I need to get to these different points with employment within a career, within an industry? So we're really excited this is a new feature of Canvas. From the non-credit side, we want to show somebody who, a lot of our students are non-traditional students. They're the ones that really didn't think they were going to go to a post-secondary school. They thought they were going to go to high school, graduate, and get into the workforce. But some of them just needed some skills trainings to get their feet in the door and to have something that they could really be proud of and say, I can do this. I can see myself doing this. So once we are able to show the pathway, so if somebody starts in a skid steer course, we can show them, okay, what's next? What can I stack onto that?
Yeah.
So then there's the bulldozer, there's the excavator, there's the roller. Well, if they're interested in road building, as they get experience and as they get into the industry, they can come back to their local college and say, hey, okay, now I need to learn this. Or their employer can say, hey, I've got some incumbent workers. We need to upskill them. I know y'all have got some advanced level things for them. What does that pathway look like? So we're really excited in the next few weeks to really start developing those pathways so we can show what credentials are able to be stacked as well.
One of the things we train on when we do LMD training is for incoming supervisors or supervising former peers is really developing that mentor relationship. And in that mentor relationship, it's showing them the pathway of how they can succeed, especially with younger generations, because that's what they're looking for is how can I continue to grow here in this company? And that's amazing that that's going to be an opportunity because that's such a great way to keep the companies coming back and still working with the community college system and the innovation center and hopefully continue to work with ATN as well. It's a great
Absolutely.
ecosystem that we're building. So
It is. And we want to be able to show not just students, but employers in our state. Where do those training programs happen? What colleges have what programs?
yes.
And then it'll also help us identify the gaps. What are we missing? What do we need to continue to develop? Or as industry sees these pathways and say, that's great, but what about this? And so that gives us an opportunity through ATN, through the Innovation Center, through our community colleges to have those conversations and to really start that development process with them. Um, the one thing I was going to mention earlier is we're very unique because we copyright all of our Skills for Success courses. I don't know of any other program within the community college system who is copywriting their content.
That's right.
So we are super excited and proud of that. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes what we do very special, because it indicates that we're listening to industry, and we're able to make them that connection with those students who are successfully gone through programs and training. We talk about soft skills a lot, and like reliability of employees. We try to build that inside of every course. Like, why is it important that I need to know these safety aspects of what I'm doing? What effect does it have on my coworker that works down the line from me, or across the road from me in another piece of equipment, whatever it is? If it's food and beverage, if you're in the back of the house or the front of the house, what effect do my decisions have on those that I work with? All of our courses have that built into them. That it's so important for them to not only learn the role they're doing, but the impact it has in the decisions they make, and the work ethic that they put into it can impact the whole environment. And that's the culture. That's the culture within those companies. That's the culture within of industry, is that we recognize what we do is important, but how it affects other people is just as important.
Yes.
So we try to build some of that in outside of our courses: reliability, being on time. What's so great about the hands-on experience and the hands-on lab, they're in that environment. So it's not just, oh, I learned some things and I got a job, but now that I started day 1, day 2 of that job, I really didn't know what that environment was going to be like. And I'll tell you, coming from manufacturing and automotive, I saw it every single day.
Yes.
You would have individuals, super excited to come in and join your company, and on day 1 at lunchtime, you were looking for John Doe, and John Doe didn't come back from lunch because John Doe didn't know what that environment was like. That's why it's so important what we do brings that ahead of that time frame for that student, so they know what to expect. They know if they like it or not. Like, oh, this isn't for me.
No.
We've had that, and that's okay. I have a son who's going through welding. At first he's like, yeah, I'm going to love this. He loves it. And then one day he's like, yeah, I don't know if I like this. But guess what? He got into it a little bit more and learned a little bit more about it. And he's like, I love this. I really do. I want to keep going with it. Is this what I'm going to do for my career? I don't know. But you know what? He's gaining some really valuable skills along the way. That's exactly what Skills for Success is supposed to do. Make sure that we have programs that non-traditional students, or those that a company needs to upskill, has an opportunity to learn and to grow their skill set and their toolbox, right? That's their internal toolbox.
I'd like to grow my internal toolbox.
I would love for you to grow your internal toolbox. When I would like to ask a follow-up about the credentialing. I admit that I suffer from some confusion when it comes to, look, I understand degree programs, no problem, I get that. But then there are certificate programs that I don't understand as well. Then there are credentials, some defined by the college system itself, some defined by industry, which typically, from my understanding, is a task force of members of a specific industry sector that say these are the skills that we would all need for a person to be more successful. Are the credentials you're talking about industry recognized credentials, or are they ACCS credentials? How does that
work?
Yeah.
So what we have designed through Skills for Success is an ACCS credential. And so when that credential is presented to any employer across our state, they know that it was built here by industry for industry. And so it's credentials that may not be recognized on a national level because it's a Alabama Community College System credential. But here in our state, they are recognized by industry because those are the ones who came to the table and said, we have a need. And we built those courses together so they know that when a student goes through that, they've met those objectives that we set forth to do in the beginning. There is still a lot of confusion, and I will say not just in the state of Alabama, but coming off of a conference a couple of weeks ago, I was out in Spokane, Washington, and lots of educators from K-12, post-secondary, all in one conference, and that was actually one of our topics of our session was stackable credentials, certifications. What's the difference? How do you give value to those programs? And the value lies within those that hire from them, right? The value lies in the exposure that industry has in your community to those programs. And that's something that's not just, I mean, there's no easy and there's no right or wrong answer to that. I think it's all about localizing what is available and what that program means to be able to help industry grow and to help industry gain those individuals that have great skills that they're not having to spend a lot of training time on,
Right.
right? Um, that's one thing that I know coming out of industry and automotive and manufacturing world. A lot of times, if you brought somebody in off the street who really didn't even understand the environment, they didn't know the terminology. If you showed them a piece of equipment, they didn't even know what that was called. Um, a lot of time is non-productive time. We call that
Right.
non-value added time, right? In industry, you're spending on training. Training costs money. So if you can bring individuals in within a 30 to 60-day onboarding period that already have that basic knowledge and know-how, that's when industry says, "This is a recognizable credential." And I know, the individuals that I can hire from this have already obtained those skills necessary to have a great start in my community.
Yeah, a lot of companies, a lot of larger companies do that. They send their employees through a training course. There's some utility companies, some industries here in Alabama that they do that. When you're hired on, you go through a couple week course where you learn everything, and then that helps you get like a little extra
Right.
bump when you go in because they already know you know that and understand it, which is fantastic. I think about the non-credentialing. So I hear on the street you have a drone program. That's
Yes.
always really intrigued to me. Why do you make that face?
I don't
I'm trying to find
talk about the secret drone program.
something to increase my toolbox. But that's one of
That
your
would be one of the ones you asked a minute ago, which what course would I like to do? Yeah, I would like to learn more about that as well. We actually just piloted the drone course last week. Shelton State Community College here locally was the college that helped us pilot that program. A lot of times we say, where does the thought come from of what we need to build and why we need to build it? Sometimes it comes from industry associations. Sometimes it comes from economic developers. Sometimes it comes from our chambers, and sometimes it comes directly from our colleges. And that was one that came from our colleges. So Shelton State brought that idea to the Innovation Center and said, "Hey, here is a need. Here's some local community partners that we have who said, hey, we really need to help get more individuals trained because we have jobs for them." And so that was really exciting for us to, when we vetted kind of what that statewide need looked like. Yeah, there are drone operators in many different industries, right? Like that's not an industry specific position. I mean, we're using drones in agriculture, we're using drones in security, we're using drones in education environments. Like drones are used everywhere. Survey, I was about to say survey. We first saw drones when we developed our land surveyor course. So yes, they're everywhere. And so that was something that we were like, okay, how do we do this? How do we make sure that this has got all the components in it that is going to help someone? So part of that is really that I think it's FAA 107 course exam that they have to be able to earn that certification to be able to fly in as well. So that course is basic understanding of drones, capabilities, functionality, operation, all of that. Plus it helps prepare them for that FAA 107. So
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how many drones Santa has purchased and brought to my house, and how many of them are no longer there.
they're in a tree a few miles away. Is that right?
You're
I
right.
didn't know where that was going.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Where else? Where they get up right above the radio frequency, and I hear screaming, and I run, and it's like there it goes.
It's gone.
Well,
absolutely had crashed many a flying toy.
so maybe this one is for sure something I should do once it comes out of
I
pilot.
think these drones are more capable of that.
Probably, but at least I'd understand how to operate. But that is,
It's
see,
really neat. Yeah.
I think that's what just makes, I mean, full confession, I have been wanting you on this podcast for a while because it is very intriguing to me how we at the community college system, since ATN's part of it, how we know we are finding the pockets and the gaps and figuring out how to meet industry needs, economic developer, like as a whole part of the state is
Yeah.
how to fill that so that when you graduate high school, you have a way to figure out how to provide for your family. Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do is build a better Alabama, one step at a time. And so it's just very interesting to me how it's completely built from the mouth and the words of those that are really needing that help.
Well, and I think it goes back to really, I'll talk about our roots again and where the Innovation Center idea came from. It was really the foresight of Chancellor Baker and really his heart into how do we support more industry partners within our state, especially small business. So
Mhm.
small business in the National NFIB, National Federation of Independent Businesses, Rosemary Elabesh and Mindy Hanen from the Alabama Hospitality and Restaurant Association came to Chancellor Baker and said, "Hey, we've got things that small businesses need
Mhm.
training for as well." A lot of training programs exist across the state. A lot of big industries get training programs, but a lot of our smaller businesses were like, we don't have the funding, we don't have the time to send an individual off for weeks or 2 years to get trained when we just need them to know these things. And that's really how the Innovation Center came to be is small business came with a need and said, we also need training. We need skills training. And so that impact right now, I think at first we thought it was for maybe a niche of a market of individuals across our state, but it's really grown. It's grown to helping small, middle, and large industry and employers. It's grown to helping our high school students as well because we can offer skills for success now in connection with the career and technical education pathways. It's connecting workforce development and economic development. We've been working on projects with Melody Witten,
Mhm.
our Chief of Operations for Economic Development for the community college system. There's a lot of industry looking to come to Alabama.
Mhm.
One thing they want to make sure is there's training programs that exist.
Absolutely.
How can our state help them be better and help them find the workforce that they
Mhm.
need? So we've really looked, a couple of the things that we've been working on or will be working on here soon are coming out of economic development conversations and strategies for the state of Alabama. How do we set Alabama apart from other states and really entice industry and employers who want to move or set up new operations within Alabama? Let's make sure they know who the community college system is, that they know who ATN and the Innovation Center and their local college and what programs that we have available. And if we identify gaps, maybe those are some things we need to look into to say, well, if industry is coming, we've got to be prepared, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
And the fact that they can be at the table and have the
yeah,
conversation and be able to, especially with, the EV and battery and so many different things that we're moving towards that maybe not everybody truly understands the full concept of what we can do, what can the state do, and for the industry to be able to sit at the table and have the conversations and bring in the points that are practical to them,
right.
that's huge.
It is. Yeah.
And there's not a lot of that. I mean, you work with a lot of other states, and there are some of our partners in the MEP network that do some of that, but not many. Not in the beginning
I would say
phases.
you're right. Yeah.
Um, we have some that do it on the East Coast with the Maritime, which
Right.
we of course
Yeah.
are starting to work with that,
That's
and
going to be fun and exciting.
it is. That's probably one that sticks out to me is they.
Most of the time when that happens across the MEP network, a company is expanding. I was
Mhm.
on the phone with one yesterday, as a matter of fact, that they moved into a new state and either they had known about the MEP program from the state they were headquartered in
Mhm.
originally, or they had come into contact with it in the new location through the Economic Development Associations and then had wondered retroactively, was the same thing available where
Mhm.
they were from. So, but they're not always at the table together when the original conversation starts. It usually works itself out, but not intentionally necessarily.
Which brings me to another point. I'm glad you have a marketing team because that to me seems to be we in the state of Alabama sometimes do not sell the best things we have to offer. We can sell football like nobody's business, but
Football sells itself.
it does sell itself. Of course, I've dynasties or
We're sitting in the heart of it right now.
Roll Tide. Had to say that.
Mm. Oh, yeah, okay. No, but the marketing part, to me, that's I'm so glad that there was forethought in that and to having a marketing division to really help sell and brand and do the PR that's needed because we find that with ATN
Mhm.
and MEP. What like Joey just said, they're like, oh, did that exist in the state I was in? Does that exist here? And so,
Well, I think we found early on, we were moving at a pace and a sense of urgency to really support industry quickly, that we really had to identify where some of our internal gaps were with the Innovation Center. And some of that was, we've got to get the information out to the state as quickly as possible, not just to employers, but to students, to our colleges. Like a lot of that had to do with how we communicate things and how we really market and share opportunities that are available. And one thing we're hearing from our colleges is, I need to know more about this course to be able to go sell it in my community, right? So anything that we could build internally to have those digital assets or those flyers or brochures or any information that could tell more about the programs we're building to help the colleges really promote those as well in their community. So really early on, we were doing a lot of things internally, working with ACCS marketing team, kind of all between curriculum and workforce teams in our department and our division. Like a lot of us were like, okay, we can't do this all day long. We can't build marketing materials and build the things all day long that our colleges need, that we need to promote skills for success in the Innovation Center, because we're promoting the community college system as a whole, right? That's who we represent, that we are a part of the community college system's workforce development. And we wanted to make sure that we could make that connection on any marketing materials and things that we were sharing as well. It's not just about the Innovation Center. It's about how we partner together with our colleges, with our industry, and how we partner as part of the community college system. So that was really important to us. And when I said, I really would like to have a marketing team inside of the Innovation Center, I appreciate all of the support behind that, because I think that's what's really helped drive us now having 50 plus courses developed and another dozen in development, in process right now. Because if we weren't able to get that word out of who we are, what we do, how we work within the community college system, within our colleges, we probably wouldn't have the response that we have right now. So marketing and being able to share those opportunities and share curriculum and social media is another thing. Being able, y'all are the same way in ATM. Like, I know we follow each other and see what each other's doing. We try to help coordinate and communicate things that we're doing as well. And I know there's some things on the horizon we're going to be partnering more for.
Right.
And so that's a great opportunity of how we can internally develop our marketing and strategies to do that. Part of my role as the operations chief of operations for the Innovation Center is really, what is that strategy? Like, we have to clearly define that before we put together a marketing plan for what we're doing. Sometimes our strategy is we need to share more for student base. Sometimes it's we need to share more information with our colleges. Sometimes it's we need to share more to industry and local employers, or how do we bring in more membership of an association we're already partnering with? How do we share that information? And so we really have to strategize, what's our message? And then what's the return that we're looking for on that? We're not necessarily selling a product, right? Sometimes it's hard to see what your ROI is, but you can see ROI with impact, and you can see it with outcomes. And students that are enrolling, students that are completing, a completion statistic is so important in what we do. We don't just want them to enroll and get in the program. We want them to complete and be successful and go out into the world and connect with those jobs, or be able to come back to the local college and take that next step into what that learning opportunity is going to be. So we have to market that. We have to share that opportunity. So it was really important to us that early on we had an opportunity to continually have strategies and programs that continually move the message about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and how to get connected to it. A lot of companies that we've talked to were like, I don't know who my local, like we'd say, go talk to your local workforce team. I'm not sure who that is, especially small business. Right. They really didn't know what that meant. Or, when you'd say a college's name, they're like, oh, well, that's the 2-year college program. Yeah, there's a lot more to that. Right. And so that exposure to know, hey, you have a whole workforce team at your college who's here to help you, even as a small business. You may not see a need right now, but if something comes up, we want you to know we're here in your local community to help you. So that's been exciting as well.
I agree. A lot of it is moving pieces. The pieces exist to do what you need to do. Just everyone may not know it, and you have to get them all together. So I totally agree.
Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on today. We so appreciate it. Again, like I said earlier, this has been one that I have wanted to host for a while because it's the spokes and understanding how we all fit together. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before?
Well, no, really. I just thank y'all for the opportunity to share what we do through the ACCS Innovation Center, to share more about skills for success. And I hope maybe in the coming months or coming year, we'll be able to share a little bit more about our partnerships and things that are to come as we partner together with ATN on some more training opportunities.
And tell us real quick how they can get in touch with you or with the Innovation Center.
Yes. So we have a website, trainforalabama.com. You can go in there, see more about our courses. If you're interested in learning more, there's 3 buttons. If you're a student and you're interested, click there. If you're an employer, you're interested, click there. If you're a K-12 provider and maybe you're like, hey, I need skills for success in my local high school, there's also a button for that. So
Couldn't be simpler.
couldn't be simpler. There's great videos and success stories on our website. There's contact information. We would love to hear from you and be able to answer any questions you have. But thanks for the opportunity to be with you today, and I've really enjoyed this time together.
As have I. Thank you very
so
much.
much.